The bank manager laughed, struck a match, and burned the check in front of everyone. "Take your fake money somewhere else," he said loudly. The entire lobby went silent. Customers stopped mid-transaction. Tellers froze at their stations. Someone's phone was recording. What the manager didn't know was this: the man standing in front of him owned more shares in that bank than anyone in the building. And within 20 minutes, the bank would no longer belong to him. First National Bank. Tuesday afternoon, 2:47 p.m. The lobby was busy. 20 customers in line. Tellers processing transactions. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Classical music played softly through hidden speakers. Everything normal, until Daniel Carter walked in. Daniel was 52 years old. He wore a plain gray jacket, the kind you'd find at a department store clearance rack. Faded jeans with a small tear near the knee. A button-down shirt that had seen better days, wrinkled at the elbows. Comfortable walking shoes, scuffed at the toes. No watch. No jewelry. No designer accessories. No Mercedes keys jingling in his pocket. Just a man who looked like he might be picking up a small business loan application or depositing a modest paycheck. He carried a single envelope, plain, white, unsealed. He walked to the nearest available teller. A young woman named Sarah Mitchell who'd been working there for 3 months. She was 24, still learning the systems, still nervous about making mistakes. Daniel waited patiently while she finished with the customer ahead of him. He didn't check his phone, didn't tap his foot, didn't sigh impatiently like the man behind him was doing. He just waited. When Sarah was ready, Daniel stepped forward and smiled politely. "Good afternoon," he said quietly. "I'd like to deposit this check, please." His voice was calm, unremarkable, the kind of voice that doesn't demand attention. He slid the envelope across the polished marble counter. Sarah smiled back, grateful for a customer who wasn't rude, and opened the envelope. Her smile froze. Her eyes went wide. Her hand trembled slightly as she held the check up to read it again, making sure she'd seen the number correctly. The check was for $4,700,000. Sarah's training kicked in. Large deposits required manager approval. Checks over $50,000 needed verification. This was bigger than anything she'd ever handled. She looked up at Daniel. He stood there patiently, calmly, like he'd just handed her a check for $20. This is a very large amount, sir. I'll need to get my manager to—" "That's fine," Daniel said. "Take your time." Sarah picked up the phone at her station. Her hand was still shaking slightly. Across the lobby, Richard Hale sat in his glass office overlooking the main floor. Richard was 48 years old. Expensive charcoal suit, Brooks Brothers tailored. Gold Rolex on his left wrist. Cufflinks that cost more than Sarah made in a week. Hair styled perfectly with just enough gray at the temples to look distinguished. He'd been branch manager for 7 years. And in those 7 years, he'd built a reputation. Some people called it attention to detail. Others called it strong leadership. What it really was, control. Richard loved power. Not the kind of power that came from respect or competence. The kind that came from making people nervous. From watching them straighten up when he walked by. From seeing tellers scramble when he asked questions. He loved the way customers smiled nervously when he approached their transactions. The way they apologized for things that weren't their fault. The way they deferred to his judgment. He'd risen through the ranks by being aggressive, by never backing down, by trusting his instincts over procedures when his instincts told him someone didn't belong. And right now, his instincts were screaming. He'd noticed Sarah pick up the phone, noticed the way she'd gone pale, noticed how she kept glancing at the customer in front of her, some guy in cheap clothes who looked like he'd wandered in from a Goodwill store. Richard stood up, straightened his tie, projected confidence as he walked across the lobby. Several customers watched him walk. He liked that, liked being recognized, liked the little nods of acknowledgement from the regulars who knew who he was. He approached Sarah's station with a professional smile, the kind of smile that said, "I'm here to help, but don't waste my time." "Is there a problem, Sarah?" Sarah hesitated. She looked at Daniel, looked back at Richard, lowered her voice. No, sir. I just... This check is quite large, and I wanted to verify the proper procedures for... Richard held out his hand, palm up, expectant. Sarah gave him the check. Richard looked at it. His eyebrows rose slightly. He looked at Daniel, looked back at the check, looked at Daniel again, this time taking the wrinkled shirt, the worn shoes, the complete absence of anything that suggested wealth, and he laughed. Not a polite chuckle, a real laugh, loud enough that the customer behind Daniel looked up from her phone. "Sir," Richard said, his voice carrying across the lobby now, "where exactly did you get this check?" Daniel's voice remained calm, measured. "It's payment for services rendered. I'm depositing it into my business account." Services rendered. Richard repeated the words slowly, like he was tasting them, like they were absurd. And what services would those be? Consulting work. Consulting? Richard's smile widened. He looked at Sarah, looked at the customer behind Daniel, back to Daniel. "And who writes a check for $4.7 million for consulting?" "The client who hired me." "Uh-huh." Richard held the check up to the light, squinting at it theatrically. "And you're expecting us to believe this is legitimate?" "I'm expecting you to process it." The lobby was starting to notice now. Conversations dropping off, people glancing over, the way crowds do when they sense something interesting happening. Richard's voice got louder, deliberately, performing now. "Sir, I'm going to need to see multiple forms of identification. I'm going to need documentation of this alleged consulting work. I'm going to need proof of the source of these funds. Proof of..." The check has routing numbers. The account information is printed right there. You can verify it in 30 seconds. "I don't think you understand how banking works." "I understand perfectly." That response, that calm, unbothered response, infuriated Richard, because men like Richard needed people to be intimidated, needed them to stammer, to apologize, to shrink, and Daniel wasn't doing any of that. Richard set the check down on the counter, tapped it with his finger. "You know what I think?" He addressed not just Daniel now, but everyone within earshot. "I think this is a very sophisticated fake. I think someone spent good money printing this up, and now they're trying to commit fraud." Daniel's expression didn't change. "Call the number on the check. Verify it with the issuing bank." "Oh, I will. But first, I need you to explain something to me." Richard gestured at Daniel's clothes. "How does a man dressed like this come into my bank with a check for nearly $5 million? My clothes have nothing to do with the validity of that check." "Actually, they do. Because in my experience, and I've been doing this for 23 years, real wealth doesn't walk through that door looking like it just finished a shift at a gas station." Someone in line snickered, a man in a business suit. Richard caught his eye and smiled, acknowledged the agreement. Sarah shifted uncomfortably behind the counter. "Sir, maybe we should just run the verification." Richard cut her off without looking at her. "Sarah, I'm handling this." He turned back to Daniel, leaned forward slightly, voice dropping just enough to seem confidential, but still loud enough for others to hear. "Here's what I think really happened. You got this check somehow. Maybe you found it. Maybe someone wrote it as a joke. Maybe you printed it yourself, and you thought you'd try your luck at a bank where nobody knows you. That's not what happened. But you picked the wrong bank. Because I don't let fraud happen on my watch. I don't care how real that check looks. I don't care what story you prepared. What I care about is protecting this institution and our customers from people like you. Then verify the check, and you'll see I'm not defrauding anyone." Or... Richard picked up the check again, held it up. "I saved everyone a lot of time and trouble." A woman near the back of the line, older, maybe 60, carrying a designer handbag, spoke up. "Excuse me, sir. Maybe you should just verify it? Isn't that standard procedure?" Richard turned toward her. His smile didn't waver, but his eyes went cold. "Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but I'm the branch manager. I know how to handle these situations. This check is fraudulent. I can tell by..." "By what?" the woman asked. "His clothes?" "By my 23 years of experience in banking." The woman shook her head and went back to her phone. But the damage was done. More people were paying attention now. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked entertained. Richard turned back to Daniel. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to wait right here while I call security. You could just verify the check. And we're going to have a very long conversation about where you really got this, what you thought you were going to accomplish, and whether we need to involve law enforcement. Verify the check. Richard's smile vanished completely. Don't tell me how to do my job. Daniel said nothing, just looked at him, calm, patient, unmoved. That calm was like gasoline on Richard's anger. He turned to Sarah. Get security. Now. Sir, I really think we should. Are you questioning me, Sarah? No, sir. Then pick up that phone and call security. Sarah's hand trembled as she picked up the phone. Daniel stood perfectly still. His hands rested lightly on the counter. His face showed nothing. No fear, no anger, no desperation, just patience. Richard leaned closer, voice low, but still audible to the customers on either side. Here's what's really happening. You got this check somehow. Maybe you stole it from someone's mail. Maybe you work for a company that actually does business with Blackstone Capital, and you thought you could forge a check in their name, and you thought you'd try your luck at a bank where nobody knows you. That's not what happened. But you made a critical error. You assumed that just because a check looks real, it would pass inspection. You assumed I wouldn't notice. You assumed wrong. I assumed you'd follow basic banking procedures. Verify the check. Call the issuing institution. Check my account history. Do your job. Richard's jaw tightened. I'm doing my job. No, you're making assumptions based on prejudice. Excuse me. You're judging me based on how I'm dressed. You haven't verified anything. You haven't called anyone. You just decided I'm a criminal because I don't look like your idea of what wealth looks like. The lobby was silent now. Everyone watching. Richard's face flushed. You don't get to tell me. I'm not telling you anything. I'm stating facts. That check is legitimate. My account is in good standing. And you're about to make the biggest mistake of your career. Richard stared at him. At this nobody in cheap clothes who dared to challenge him, who dared to stay calm while Richard was trying to break him down. And something inside Richard snapped. He picked up the check, held it up so everyone could see it. This, Richard announced loudly, is a fake check. A very good fake, but fake nonetheless. It's not. And I'm going to show you all what we do with fraudulent instruments. He tore the check, slowly, deliberately, down the middle. The sound of paper ripping echoed in the silent lobby. Some people gasped. Others pulled out their phones. Sarah stood frozen behind the counter. Richard wasn't done. He pulled a book of matches from his pocket. He was a cigar smoker, always carried them. He struck a match. The small flame flickered in the fluorescent light. This is what we do with fake checks. And he lit the torn check on fire, held it up as it burned, the edges curling, the ink bubbling, the paper turning to ash. He dropped the burning pieces into the metal trash behind Sarah's station, let them fall, watched them burn completely. Then he brushed his hands together, smiled at the lobby. Problem solved. The entire bank was frozen. Daniel stared at the ashes in the trash can. When he spoke, his voice was very, very quiet, but somehow everyone heard it. You just made the biggest mistake of your career. Richard laughed. Actually laughed. Is that a threat? It's a fact. 2 security guards arrived. Frank, the older guard who'd been working there for 15 years, and a younger guard named Marcus. Both of them looked uncomfortable. Escort this gentleman out of the building, Richard said, and make sure he understands he's not welcome back. Frank glanced at Daniel. Something in the man's calm demeanor made him hesitate. Sir, maybe we should verify. Are you questioning me, Frank? No, sir, but if the check was legitimate. It wasn't. But if it was... Frank, do I need to write you up for insubordination? Frank's jaw tightened. No, sir. Then do your job. The 2 guards approached Daniel. Sir, Frank said quietly, we're going to have to ask you to leave. Daniel looked at Richard one more time. His expression hadn't changed. Still calm, still patient. But something in his eyes, something cold and final, made Richard's stomach twist just slightly. "You had every opportunity to do this the right way," Daniel said, "to follow procedures, to verify before you destroyed. You chose not to." "Get him out," Richard said. The guards escorted Daniel toward the exit. Every customer watched. Every teller watched. The woman with the designer handbag shook her head in disgust. A man filming on his phone followed Daniel all the way to the door. And Richard stood there, behind Sarah's station, feeling powerful. After Daniel was gone, Richard turned to face the lobby. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. That's how we handle attempted fraud at First National Bank. Your deposits are safe. Your accounts are protected. And scammers like that don't get past me." A few people nodded. Most just went back to their transactions, uncomfortable with what they'd witnessed. Richard walked back toward his office, stopped at Sarah's station. "Next time something feels wrong, you come to me immediately. Don't waste time trying to process it yourself." "Understood." "Yes, sir. You did the right thing calling me." Sarah said nothing. She just nodded, but inside she felt sick. She'd tried to verify the check. Richard had stopped her, and now she'd watched him destroy it. Richard returned to his office, sat down at his desk, leaned back in his leather chair, feeling vindicated, feeling powerful, feeling like he'd just saved the bank from a major fraud attempt. He pulled out his phone, texted his boss. "Just handled a major fraud attempt. Guy tried to deposit a fake check for 4.7 M. Shut it down immediately. All clear now." His boss texted back within seconds. "Good work. That's why you're there." Richard smiled. He considered calling his wife, telling her about it. Maybe they'd go out for dinner tonight. Celebrate. He'd order the good wine. He glanced out at the lobby. Everything was back to normal. Customers in line. Tellers working. Order restored. He'd done his job. Protected the bank. Stopped a criminal. He felt untouchable. Outside, Daniel stood on the sidewalk. The afternoon sun was warm. Traffic moved past. People walked by without noticing him. He took out his phone, scrolled through his contacts, found the name he needed, James Thornton, personal attorney. Press call. The phone rang twice. A voice answered. Professional, efficient. "Mr. Carter, how can I help you?" Daniel's voice was calm, almost casual, like he was ordering lunch. "James, I need you to pull up my holdings in First National Bank." "Of course. One moment, please." Daniel could hear typing in the background. "You currently hold 23% of outstanding shares, making you the second largest shareholder after the Institutional Investment Fund. Your board advisory position grants you access to all senior management decisions, and I remember the details. I need you to do something for me." "Anything, sir." "Contact the regional director. His name is Marcus Webb. Tell him there's been an incident at the downtown branch that requires immediate investigation." "What kind of incident?" "Destruction of a validated check. Public humiliation of a major shareholder. Violation of multiple banking procedures. Possible regulatory issues." Silence on the other end. Then James's voice, careful and measured. "May I ask what happened?" "The branch manager burned a check for $4.7 million in front of 30 witnesses without verifying it. He accused me of fraud, had me physically removed from the building, and refused to follow any standard verification procedures." Another pause. "I'll make the call immediately." "Thank you, James." "Mr. Carter, how would you like this handled?" "By the book. No favors. No threats. Just standard procedure. Let the system work." "Understood. I'll contact Mr. Webb now." Daniel hung up. He put his phone back in his pocket, looked up at the bank building. Glass and steel. 40 stories. His signature on the founding documents from 11 years ago when he'd invested during their expansion. He'd never needed the bank to know who he was. Never needed the recognition. Never needed his name on a plaque or his photo in the lobby. He just wanted his transactions processed quietly and professionally. But Richard Hale had made that impossible. Daniel walked his car, got in, drove away, and waited. Inside the bank, Richard was reviewing quarterly reports when his office phone rang. Internal line, extension 4402, Compliance Department. He answered, Richard Hale. Mr. Hale, this is Jennifer Mills from Corporate Compliance. We've received a report that requires immediate attention. Richard frowned. What kind of report? An incident involving a customer earlier today. Can you confirm that you destroyed a check for $4,700,000 drawn on Blackstone Capital Management? Richard's stomach dropped. There was a suspected fraud attempt. The customer. Was the check verified before it was destroyed? The customer was clearly engaged in... Yes or no, Mr. Hale? Was the check verified through standard procedures before you destroyed it? Richard's mouth went dry. No. Were you aware that destroying a check without verification is a violation of federal banking regulations? I use my judgment as branch manager. Mr. Hale, we're going to need all security footage from the past 2 hours. The regional director has been notified and is en route to your location. Please do not speak to any staff members about this incident. Do not delete any files or footage. Do you understand? Yes, but... Richard sat very still. His hand was shaking as he set the phone down. This had to be a mistake. Some procedural thing. He'd explain it to the regional director. Show the footage. Explain why the customer was obviously a fraud. His phone rang again. Unknown number. He answered, trying to keep his voice steady. Richard Hale. Mr. Hale, this is Marcus Webb, Regional Director for First National Bank. I'm currently 12 minutes from your location. I need you to secure all documentation, recordings, and witness statements related to a customer interaction that occurred at approximately 2:50 p.m. today. Sir, I can explain what happened. You will explain nothing until I arrive. Do not speak to any staff about this. Do not delete any footage. Do not leave the building. Do not access any files related to the customer in question. Am I absolutely clear? Yes, sir, but... 12 minutes, Mr. Hale. Richard's hands were shaking now. He tried to pull up customer records on his computer. Tried to find information about the man he'd just thrown out. Access denied. The account was restricted. VIP status. Manager override required. Why would a fraud account have VIP status? His office door opened. Sarah stood there, pale. Sir, there are several people here from corporate. They're asking to see all the footage from this afternoon. They're asking about the man, the one with the check. Richard's voice came out hoarse. Tell them I'll be right there. Sir, they're also asking about you, about your employment file, about past incidents. What past incidents? Sarah shifted uncomfortably. Last year, when you had that customer removed for similar reasons, the one who turned out to be, that was different. They're asking about it. Richard stood up. His legs felt unsteady. Sarah, who was that man? The one from earlier. Sarah looked down at her tablet. Her voice was barely a whisper. They're saying his name is Daniel Carter. The name meant nothing to Richard. Who is Daniel Carter? Sarah pulled up something on her screen, turned it toward him. He's listed in the system as a major shareholder. He's had an account here for 11 years. He has board advisory status. Richard felt the blood drain from his face. That's not possible. It's in the system. It's been in the system since 2013. He's flagged as VIP. Requires manager notification for any unusual activity. Any disputes go directly to regional oversight. Why didn't you? I tried to verify the check. You stopped me. Richard sank back into his chair. Sarah's voice got even quieter. Sir, the video, the one of you burning the check, it's already online. Someone posted it. It has 40,000 views. Richard's phone buzzed. A text from his wife. What's going on? Someone sent me a video of you at work. Call me. His phone buzzed again. His boss. Call me immediately. Again. A number he didn't recognize. You're a disgrace to banking. You should be fired. Richard looked up at Sarah. Get out. Sir, get out. Sarah left quickly. Richard sat alone in his office. Through the glass walls, he could see corporate compliance officers arriving, men in dark suits, women with briefcases, security escorts, all of them heading toward his office. Marcus Webb arrived exactly 12 minutes after his call. 56 years old, gray hair, gray suit, no smile, no warmth. He entered Richard's office with 3 corporate compliance officers. Closed the door. Mr. Hale, tell me exactly what happened at 2:50 this afternoon. Richard tried to explain. He talked about his instincts, his experience, the way the customer looked, the suspicious nature of such a large check from someone so ordinary. Marcus listened without expression. When Richard finished, Marcus asked one question. Did you verify the check? I was about to. Did you verify it? The situation escalated. Did you call Blackstone Capital Management to verify the check? No. Did you run the customer's account history? No. Did you check his account status? No. Did you consult any other manager or compliance officer before destroying a check for $4.7 million? Silence. No. Marcus opened a folder, pulled out a printed document. Daniel Carter has been a client of this bank for 11 years. He maintains an average balance of $12 million. He holds 23% of our shares. He has never, in 11 years, had a single transaction flagged for fraud. His account is in perfect standing. He has board advisory privileges. Marcus pulled out another document, a screenshot of security footage, showing Richard holding a burning check. This footage has been viewed 200,000 times in the past 40 minutes. It's been picked up by local news. The State Banking Commission has already called for a copy. We're facing regulatory fines that could exceed $1 million. Richard's voice cracked. I made a judgment call based on. You made a catastrophic error based on prejudice. You judged a man's financial legitimacy by his clothing. You destroyed verified funds without following a single procedure. You humiliated a major shareholder in front of witnesses. You violated federal banking regulations. I was trying to protect the bank. You've exposed this bank to lawsuits, regulatory action, and reputational damage that will take years to repair. Marcus stood. You're terminated. Effective immediately. Richard couldn't breathe. There has to be some kind of process. A hearing. I have rights. You have the right to collect your personal belongings under escort. That's all. 2 security guards entered. Frank and Marcus. The same 2 who'd escorted Daniel out less than an hour ago. Mr. Hale, Frank said quietly, we need your badge, your building access card, your company phone, and your office keys. Richard couldn't move. Sir, now please. With shaking hands, Richard removed his badge from his suit jacket, set his phone on the desk, pulled his keys from his pocket. You have 10 minutes to collect personal items from your office. No computers, no files, no proprietary materials. The walk through the lobby was the longest of Richard's life. Every employee watched. Every customer watched. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Sarah stood at her station, eyes red, the woman with the designer handbag who tried to defend Daniel. She was still there. She looked at Richard and shook her head slowly. Richard kept his eyes down. The same glass doors Daniel had been pushed through. Now it was Richard's turn. Outside, the afternoon sun was still warm. Traffic still moved. People still walked past. But everything had changed. Within 24 hours, the State Banking Commission opened a formal investigation. First National Bank faced regulatory fines totaling $800,000. The branch was temporarily closed for compliance review. Richard Hale's name was added to a financial industry blacklist, unemployable at any major institution. The video reached 2.3 million views. Within a week, Richard's mortgage company pulled his pre-approval for a vacation home. His country club membership was quietly revoked. His wife filed for legal separation. He was named as a defendant in a civil lawsuit filed by Daniel Carter. Every banking recruiter he called told him the same thing. We'll keep your resume on file, which meant never. Daniel Carter walked into a different bank the next morning, carried the same envelope, wore the same clothes. The manager personally greeted him at the door. Mr. Carter, we're honored to have you. Please, right this way. They processed a replacement check issued by Blackstone within hours of the incident. In 4 minutes. Verified everything. Completed all paperwork. Thank you for choosing our institution, Mr. Carter. Thank you. Daniel left. Never raised his voice. Never threatened anyone. Never demanded an apology from Richard Hale. Never had to. He thought wealth looked a certain way. He thought power announced itself. He thought he could judge someone's worth by their clothes, their car, their watch. He was wrong. Because real power doesn't beg to be believed. Real power doesn't need validation from people who don't matter. Real power doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. It simply acts. And sometimes the man you humiliate in public, the one you mock, the one you burn in front of witnesses, the one you throw out like garbage, that man is the one who decides whether you still have a job when the doors close. Richard Hale learned that lesson. But by the time he understood it, by the time he realized what he destroyed with a match and his own arrogance, it was far, far too late. If you enjoyed this story, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. It helps more people find content like this. And if you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We share stories about power, consequences, and people who learn the hard way that respect isn't about appearance. It's about character. Drop a comment below and let me know. Where are you watching from? And have you ever witnessed someone judge a book by its cover and regret it instantly? I read every comment. I want to hear your stories. Until next time, remember this. Never assume you know someone's value by looking at their surface. The quietest person in the room might be the most powerful, and the person you dismiss today might be the one who decides your fate tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.